back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your host, Zack. It's good to be back, Tyler.
It is. Finally got to share a game you've been wanting to share for quite some time.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 was my first Resident Evil game. My wife is a huge Resi fan. And she was looking for a game to share with me. And we saw this at a Redbox. And she's like, can we play this? And I said, sure. And I did.
Interesting.
And I ended up loving it, and we went back and played a lot of the other ones together, and looked forward to, the release of Resident Evil 2 Remake, all that stuff. So this was my first Resident Evil experience ever.
What I took away from that was that you Redboxed a video game. I've never done that.
Yeah, it was really weird. You can get them pretty cheap if you don't like having the cases, which I do, but you can get cheap movies and games if you like when they're done with them. It's like just a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Anyway, we also have a beer, though.
We do.
Talk to me about it. This is from
Hardywood. We've had a couple others from Hardywood. My favorite still, I think it was our first episode we had. It was that spiced peach cobbler. That was a farmhouse ale, I think, like a peach cobbler saison. This, however, is a porter, and we do have something to accompany it with when we move on to RE Village. So this is an imperial porter with ginger, vanilla, cinnamon, and honey. I feel like it's going to be really rich. I haven't tried it yet.
This is surprisingly bitter.
Interesting. So this is from Virginia, Hardywood in Virginia. Surprisingly bitter, you say?
Nice long pause there. Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast.
You're right.
Where we take long pauses.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't disagree, but I like that. I like that it's not super sweet like
I do as well.
Like that. Just a couple weeks ago, we tried a barley wine that had a lot of sweetness to it, but was like just counteracted enough by the bitterness of it to not feel like, it was just a sugary neon pink drink or something. This, however, that bitterness...
There's a lot of coffee on this one.
Adds to it a lot.
Actually. Yeah, I'm picking up quite a bit of coffee. But it's good. I like it.
Yeah. That's going to be... what is the... alcohol on this one? Not too much. 9.2. Yeah, that's less than...
not too much. Just a minor 9.2 beer.
Well, I was drinking Devil's Backbone the other day with some friends playing an RPG.
Dude, those tripels.
And I hadn't met these guys before, so I brought like an easy drinker and something else that wasn't too out there, not like a nice IPA or something like that. I was like, anybody would drink this, and all of them were like totally taken aback by the like 8.7. Like, oh my god, this is like triple regular beers. Like, what do you drink?
Probably pale ales. Probably.
Are those pretty low?
Pretty much the average for most beer is 5%. Maybe 6.
Well, it's not triple. The 8.7
no, that's correct.
So they must drink like
hard seltzers.
Yeah, basically.
Berliner Weiss. It's good stuff.
Indeed. We had a Berliner Weiss not too long ago.
I had one with maple syrup in it. As it's traditionally served in Germany. Wow, that was good.
The tangerine Berliner Weiss that we had from Firewalker is one of my favorite beers. I wish I had gotten more of it, but that one, $3.75, was like almost $20. So I was only going to get one, but I definitely kept that bottle. I've got on my shelf a reservation for 2 bottles. Just my favorite beers as they get cycled out. That's been out there quite some time.
I bet.
It's great. Anyhow, let's move on to video games, because that's what we're really here to talk about. We're here to talk about Resident Evil 7 and 8, starting with 7, of course.
Yeah, and
the story of the father.
The story of the father. So yeah, we will be covering spoilers. So if you're sensitive to that, go play these games. It's going to be good, but we won't be talking about any 8 spoilers. Won't even be mentioning stuff from 8 until we are done talking about 7.
Yes.
So if you're worried about that, but you do want to hear the 7 part, keep that in mind.
And then I think it's best to just jump right into spoilers. It's been out for a while. There'll be a clear cut for the episode, but if you're going to stick around,
about 7, there will be 7 spoilers. When we're talking about 8, there will be 8 and 7 spoilers.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. These are, in terms of Resident Evil games, an odd couple because they are direct sequels. They go very much together. They're very intended to be played as sequels to each other, versus you can pick up 4 and then you can play 2 and then you can play 10. Don't worry about that. That's just a little doggies downstairs.
Yeah, a bunch of little yappers.
Little ones. But yeah, so let's talk about Resident Evil 7. This game is responsible for Resident Evil still being talked about today, probably.
Yeah, I think it was on its way out the door with 6 and the couple of spin-offs they had before 6.
And really it was 6, which is funny because 6 sold like a charm. Like 6 sold really well. If you guys want a good breakdown on that, Matt McMuscles does a What Happened episode on Resident Evil 6. And it really... it does have its fans, but it's not a horror game anymore. Very much just, he does a comparison of an explosion from Resident Evil 5 when you shoot an explosive barrel and one from 6, and it's like a 70s action flick versus a Michael Bay movie. It's
Wow.
Crazy.
Interesting. I've seen, I think, like only screenshots of 6. I'd like to see it. I'd maybe even like to play it. Do you think a good episode would be Resident Evil 6 and Kane Lynch 2?
It absolutely
For some reason,
would be.
I just feel...
No,
maybe it's the purple cover art, but I feel like those would go well together.
I'm in. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I'm all in.
All right, we'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, so I will say, though, that this game pretty much PT hit the scene. What was that, 2015, right? 2015, PT hit the scene, and...
Something like that.
Good old Konami just scrapped it. Kojima out the door.
Konami.
And Capcom's like, oh, we like our series. We'll do some of that. And so they, the whole advertisement campaign was just rooted in the same spirit and, I guess, that little tiny sliver of zeitgeist that PT captured, And it's such an important moment for Capcom because really, it was hard to tell it was even a Resident Evil game. Many weren't even sure.
Especially with the demo. What is it, like opening hour or whatever it's called.
It's this
beginning hour.
Yeah, it's got a lot of PT, a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, really a lot of those 70s slasher flicks in it. And it feels more like a love letter to those than any Resident Evil game.
Dude, definitely Chainsaw Massacre. It happens off screen in Chainsaw Massacre, definitely the color, but it seems like one of the scenes that happen off screen in that movie, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's a masterpiece.
But it's responsible for the daylight horror genre, basically.
Yeah, which is some of the best horror. Yeah, I love it.
It's good stuff. And this versus, we'll talk about Village's influences, but 7 bleeds 70s slasher. It just does. And even the opening, when you're walking up to the house, you see Jack walk past in front of you. And, the yellows, the maybe just a touch of green here or there against that just really just pallid that sky. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's really it's very much wears its influences on its sleeve.
I'm curious to know how Japan looks at something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just thinking about how we look at, what is it, Yuan or something like that, or The Ring, like the inspiration for The Ring, and Tetsuo, which is newer, but just weird niche Japanese horror. I wonder how they view. I'd like to know how
one thing
horror
I do
fans in
know
Japan
is
view that.
there were some early sketches in Resident Evil Village. They have a lot of the 7 concept art with kind of commentary on it, and they were mentioning here are some pre-location visit sketches, and they had to fully redesign aspects. Like, they committed, they went to Louisiana and there are no windmills here, we have to take that windmill out of the picture. Like, they did research on making this feel like an old Louisiana house, and it sure
that's
feels
one
like
of the things I liked so much about this game. It felt, even though I've only been to Louisiana once, just being here, from America, I've been in houses like this. I grew up until I was maybe 12. I had lived in like 3 or 4 very large farmhouses, and most of my family owned pretty large farmhouses, and I've just been in places like this, and it felt so familiar to me.
Yeah. Family members, uncles, aunts had houses just like this. It's very bizarre to walk through that house the first time. So all that to say that this game was exactly the shot in the arm that Resident Evil needed to come back after something like 6.
Just bottle of some mysterious liquid on the arm that they needed.
That immediately healed them to full effectiveness again.
Yes.
It's just Jesus juice. Good old Jesus juice.
It's bizarre. Like, they staple it in the opening, like after the opening, you wake up and your hand is being stapled on, like it was being just cut off. It's being stapled back together, and they pour this juice on it, and you're good to go.
Everything's great here, folks.
Yeah, it's really silly. It's honestly one of the silliest, like, healing animations. Like, it's already unbelievable enough, just like the steroid shot in typical shooters. Or do they do that with Chris in the DLC here?
Yeah, he's got a little shooter.
Yeah, like, that's unrealistic enough, but this is literally just, like, on the surface of your skin, you've been cured of, like, AIDS or something.
Yeah, it's just, you're good. It's crazy. It's it's very, very silly. And they're like, oh, well, we need to, make it so that you can see the animation happening, but it's in first person. Let's just pour it on his hand. It's good stuff. But speaking of that, let's just jump right into talking more about the game. That whole opening is brilliant. Like, really brilliant. It's beautifully paced as you kind of explore the house for the first time. It teaches you a little bit about the puzzles, how the puzzles are going to work, how you need to backtrack every once in a while. It's teaching you that on a smaller scale. And then just the in and out, Mia being crazy and not, and you're trying to find your girlfriend, wife. I'm not quite sure, actually, now that I think about it, in 7.
Yeah, I don't think they're just mentions.
Yeah, you love her, and you're trying to find her, and she kind of goes in and out of this crazed state where she's just trying to murder you. And it's very, very weird. She cuts your hand off. And he holds the bloody stump up right in the center of the camera.
Yeah, like while you're rushing around looking for a place to escape.
It's fantastic. And then you get your first little mini boss battle against her. And you finish the job, and Jack shows up. And he's just, welcome to the family, son. And
he's good. Jack is really awesome.
He has a presence to him. It's really well earned. And you get dragged into the house and right to the scene Tyler's talking about. And the family's sitting there, all interacting with each other. I wish there were more moments like that, to be honest. You get their family dynamic, just the overly aggressive and assertive father who he just stands up and doesn't he like hack his son's hand off, I think, or his whole arm off or something.
I feel like that's true, or does something that's just like way over the top.
Yeah, and Marguerite is like screaming profanity.
Yeah, because you don't like her cooking.
Yeah, which is
literally
just a mass of raw human organs.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But because you don't like it, because you won't eat her food, which she has prepared for you, and it's it's rude to not eat what people have prepared, she is flipping the hell out. But I'd like to revisit what you said about wanting more of the family moments. I feel like that would be really difficult to do, because if you did it again, I think even like one more time, you'd be like, come on, you're locking me up again with all of these people.
I absolutely agree. It makes the most sense not to. I just really liked the moment of them together. It's and especially seeing like Lucas, who's, you know, the next time you see him is the most annoying little, I hate him. What is the, like, if you pick up the picture of him and look at it when you're in the hallway, it says, I can tell I just don't like this guy. Like, just by looking at his face or whatever.
Yeah, I think it says something like he's a stereotypical asshole or something.
Yeah, that sounds
something along
right.
those lines.
Yeah, and and he's, talk about a nutcase.
He's really crazy.
Like, and that sweaty, wide-eyed,
because he sort of grew up in this.
Yeah, and there's a really good YouTuber who kind of covers a very, very in-depth, and his name's Mahler, and he covers a very in-depth look at Resident Evil 7, and he mentions something about how eye contact is like, usually, like, you know, you don't trust people who don't make direct eye contact with you and stuff like that, just intrinsically. But this guy who just refuses to not, like, look at you with wide eyes is just super unnerving. It's really cool, really interesting.
It's like someone who's had to be told to make eye contact. Like, I don't know, maybe he has some sort of condition other than being in a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, it's so good. I really like the family. Just, I mean, the weakest part of the game happens when you're done interacting with the family, to be honest. Yeah, they really hold up each of the first three areas. They carry it really well, and it's really interesting. We'll talk about it more when we talk about 8, but the pacing of the game. You have a little nice intro section, a kind of prolonged first section with Jack, and then the next two sections are a little bit more, like about half the length of Jack's section, and then you get to kind of the end game stuff. It's very metered out, like, it's very deliberate. You can chunk it up exactly in your mind. Resident Evil has always been pretty episodic. If you look back even to 2, we played 2 not that long ago, and you know, you have your intro in the gas station, you have your Raccoon Police Department, you have, you know, the sewers, you have the lab. It's just really metered out in the really easy to chunk up in your brain. It's just how they design the games. It's how it goes.
So you anticipate this one being my favorite RE game, right?
Yeah, when we first started this, I was pretty sure, just because of the Tyler really latches on to stuff like tone and atmosphere. That's stuff that really engages him with games. So I was assuming that he, after I had gotten into 8 a little more, that he would like 7 more. I wasn't sure if he'd like it more than 2, just because 2 is such a clean gaming experience. But I thought that between the two, he'd definitely prefer 7.
I don't think that's the case. We'll get into why.
Which makes me really happy.
But I think 2 might still be my favorite. Now that I've finished all of them, I think I'm with you on 2, man.
It's a clean game, man.
It's so good. The police station.
Yeah, that in particular.
Just one of the best levels.
Like, period.
Yeah. Just the house in here is great.
Yep.
But it's no police station.
Exactly. I think that's like the pinnacle of their level design, which is already top notch in most places.
Yeah.
It's really good. And the other areas, the sewer in particular, is a really standout area in Resident Evil 2 Remake. But even the rest of it, I got so
turned around in the sewer.
Yeah.
I just missed something, and it was very difficult for me to get out. I got pretty frustrated in the sewer, actually.
Yeah, when I played it again, I don't remember my first experience, but when I played it again for the cast, I knew it pretty well, and again, really well laid out. Lots of, like, you know, you can't go back if you go this way sections. You really got to know your way around. It's fun, but like you said, the police station is...
It's incredible.
Far and away the best.
The house is again, no police station, but is also really just absolute expert game design.
Yep.
I enjoyed every moment of the house, even going back to it. But my favorite, even though I think that was the best, like, concentrated experience of that Resident Evil 7 has to offer, and coming out of the house. Coming out of the house is incredible.
Yes.
I've talked about it before, Ghost of Tsushima and Control, the framing. I love, there's no photo mode here, unfortunately, but I love when things are framed very particularly. And when you open up that door and it shows the new areas, the lighting is very specific. That's really just, like, takes your breath away. I absolutely love coming out of the house. That's a pretty memorable moment that we'll probably talk about
and the lights
later this
on
year.
The trailer.
Yep,
and like
that's what I mean. All of the lighting, just the atmosphere. That it's as though you're about to take a breath and then realize, oh, this is still very claustrophobic. I'm not finished yet.
Yeah, I'm still on this property.
Yeah, and it's a big place. So I really like that, the pacing of really the whole game.
Yeah,
it's
I
really
think both
expert
these
pacing.
games are very well paced.
Yeah. I think 7 might be a little better paced than 8.
Potentially.
Not that 8 is poorly paced, but if you were to have to put one ahead of the other, RE7 is just... It is a super clean game.
Yeah.
I think...
It has its moments.
There's really one time that I really didn't care for. Everything else I thought was really awesome.
I remember, I don't know, I know you have much more stomach for this stuff than I do, but I kind of want to touch a little bit on, because we're kind of going through, talking about each section a little bit, but before we do that any further, I kind of want to talk about Resident Evil 7 as a horror game, right? I think it definitely is more of a horror game than something like 2 Remake.
Definitely.
You're right. 2 Remake has that cool, like, dynamic scares with, Mr. X, that, being able to build scares that aren't scripted. I have a huge respect for that. But 7, definitely, not only in terms of the actual content, but the actual game is trying to scare you more often. It's trying to deliver a more, and not necessarily just like, oh, I got scared. More like, this is disturbing, this is gross, this is, I'm uncomfortable being here kind of feelings. I remember the first time you go down into the basement and you see the molded start to come out of the walls. And
really great time in the basement.
Yeah.
The basement was awesome. And this is something that I think is more true of 8. We just talked about this before starting the cast. One of the major complaints there, no spoilers here, I'm just making a comparison. One of the major complaints that you've been hearing is that you're always prepared in 8. Like, maybe it could be balanced differently.
Yeah, because I played on normal difficulty.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little bit... and most people seem to agree. You tend to have what you need when you need it.
I think that was also the case with 4. I mean 7. I'm seeing the PS4 logo. I saw the number 4. Sorry. 7. I think that's also the case. I found it to be a particularly easy game. But
the only times I ever felt... Oh, no, go ahead.
I think there's something really... games in general, I think, are really good at this nowadays. Not so much... earlier on, but I think games have become super good at this, and that is making you feel like you're not prepared. If you end the experience and then you look at what you had going into it and what you have coming out, and then maybe like maybe I'm low on ammo, but I gathered enough equipment to just craft some more ammo really quick, so suddenly I'm really prepared again. That's fine. If you just step away from the experience, it looks like you were over-prepared and always prepared, but in the moment, it's so good at making you feel like you're not prepared. Even though you definitely are. The game's pretty easy, actually, and I think that's largely true with 8 as well, but there's something that's happening. I don't know what it is that just makes you feel unprepared. and I think
really
it's
fair.
really good.
I think that I definitely have that experience with both games, especially right after a boss encounter. And you're just like drained of everything, and you're like, I don't trust you, Resident Evil. I don't think you're gonna give me a break. I don't think. And every time you see a big chunk of ammo sitting on a table, you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna say goodbye to this in a couple minutes. Like it's you know what's coming. It's like when you see a save point right before a giant circular arena. And it's like, oh, thanks, game.
Yeah.
I guess I'll save before this not a boss battle.
And it's a boss battle every time.
Every time. JRPG. If JRPGs have taught me nothing, it's a boss battle every time.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you picked up on that. That's a really good observation. I think though let's go back and kind of talk about. So we talked a little bit about Jack. I know you didn't like that boss fight with Jack. I have a soft spot for it. I have a soft spot for it. It's very silly.
That's not what I didn't like. So the boss fight, there's one little sliver of hope. There's a cop that has come to.
I was talking about the
second one.
The second one.
Okay. Well, both of them. Let's talk about both of them.
Okay.
The first one is also very silly. You end up in the garage and you're talking to a cop, and Jack comes into the garage and half decapitates this man with a shovel just by shoving a shovel into his head, and it slides off, anime style.
Classic.
And the dude falls to his knees, and Jack starts to fight you. You can go grab his gun, and you can't do anything. Now, it does teach you here that you have to look around the entire boss arena, the whole environment, because on a desk, it's in a drawer. It's not even on the desk. It's in a drawer. You'll find car keys, and you can get in the car and keep running over Jack. Now, if you don't do that, within 2 minutes, Jack will get in the car because he has his own set of keys and kill you. There's no other way to do this. Maybe if, on a second playthrough, you have stronger guns or something, you can do it. But at this time, on a first playthrough, there's no other way to do it. And typically, unless you already know how to play the game, he's going to kill you with the car and probably do it again. And if you're a newer RE player, that's probably going to happen a few times before you either look at a guide or finally start rustling through drawers during the boss fight, because you can't go in there prior and pick up car keys and be like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do with this later. There's no way to know that.
There's definitely a better way to communicate that.
There's such a better way. And it happens again in the second boss fight. They're fun and silly, and once I knew what to do, I had a good time. I just don't think those boss fights are good game design. I don't like fighting Jack, except for the end, the mutated Jack. That was fine, but
classic Resident Evil.
We're not really
boss.
talking about that. We're talking about the two boss fights. Isn't there a third?
No, I don't think so.
Or he's half mutated?
No.
Okay, so talking about the two boss fights with Jack, I don't like them. They're fun. I enjoyed them when I knew what to do.
Sure.
But both times, well, no, it was the third try on the second one. I saw the prompt to pick up the chainsaw, which we can talk about the whole fight in a moment. But I was like, no, I'm having a good time. I'm not going to let this sully my experience. I'm going to stop and look at a guide really quick so I can figure out what to do on the first boss fight. And I feel like there's one other time I did that in the game. Oh, with one of the shadow puzzles, which we can talk about in a moment. But yeah, second boss fight. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, I just like it because you fight him with a chainsaw, and it's just an actual sword duel, but with chainsaws.
But he has scissors. Not a chainsaw.
Yeah.
He has scissors that are made with two separate chainsaws.
It's so awesome.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's fun. It
so
really
over
is
the
fun.
top.
I just think it's...
What stands out to me about that, though, is that is not a Resident Evil moment. That whole section, it's not from Resident Evil.
Why?
It's... So, if you take a look at, the other boss. So, when you fight mutated Jack, very Resident Evil moment. When you fight Jack with the car, It's, find the keys, very Resident Evil moment. Having this chainsaw duel in this gritty, nasty, basement with all these hanging corpses where he's been doing God knows what to them.
He's done some stuff to them.
Yeah, it's not very Resident Evil. Usually Resident Evil is pretty, all right, let's go. Set piece to set piece, over the top, over the top, over the top. This is like a gross setting, and he's these mangled together chainsaw hedge clipper things.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's not very Resident Evil, but at the same time, it felt like it was pretty Resident Evil.
It became Resident Evil after that, I think, just because of it's a Resident Evil game and it's presented well and it's fun. But I don't know, that's not something that I would expect. Particularly the setting is what I'm talking about. Really just the place that happens in. And just chainsawing him to death is satisfying.
Definitely. The first time you get a hit on him, you're like digging into his head.
Yes.
That's some good voice work.
Yeah. And I want to take this moment to mention that Jack is so... he gets under your skin. He just keeps coming back. He has no feeling about it one way or the other than just being happy to be back.
Yeah. Oh, man. When you just hear it coming down the hallway, Ethan! I love it.
It's so good. And it's so oppressive.
He's giddy. Ethan!
Yeah, and it's oppressive, man.
Yeah.
And just knowing that there's no way he's dead. It just drills that into your head to where even when he's actually dead, you're like, he's probably not dead. And sure enough, he comes back in the DLC.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. He's still kicking. He's still doing
that.
just
I don't
fine.
know what movie I watched. That reminds me of something I watched when I was a small child on maybe the Sci-Fi. It was late night on the Sci-Fi channel. Someone might know what this movie is. I feel like it was called Monster. Not with Charlize Theron. I think there's a movie with her called Monster.
There is.
Anyway, sci-fi movie called Monster, I think. And these two guys go on a road trip and they pick up this really attractive hitchhiker. And throughout the movie, they both build a relationship with her, and they finally take her home out in the middle of nowhere. And you come in after this they come in, you like it's a video game. They go into the house after this long trip to find this old man sitting there. And I think it's been a long time. This old man laying on a bed, and this really obese guy is her brother. And why is this woman so attractive? And she come from this weird middle of nowhere town. Turns out they're cannibals, and they're gonna eat these two guys. She's just been trying to get some meat for her family, but they have this tank. I think it's straight up a tank, or it might be like a hobbled together truck tank thing, and she turns into something maybe, and they run outside to get in the truck, and they run over her. And they back up, they run over again, and they keep doing that. And it pans out to a panoramic view. You just see the truck going back and forth as the night passes, and finally they drive off. And the credits start to roll, and then I think it's after the credits, the camera slowly zooms in back to this just pancake, just meat everywhere, and what could vaguely be made out as an eye kind of twitches.
Oh my god.
All of that to say, Jack comes back in DLC.
Yeah, it's
what movie am I talking about?
Yeah, somebody tell us, please, because now I need to watch it.
Yeah.
But no, it's he's so oppressive. And you mentioned though that you prefer Marguerite's section.
I prefer Jack's section, but Marguerite's boss battle is one of my favorite moments in the game.
That is so nasty. What does Ethan say when he crawls down? Like, you knock her down, but then she, like, runs away all bugified, and he climbs down the ladder. She's, like, her arms have extended. Like, she's, like, basically a bug, and she has this giant, like, larva sac on her, like, stomach and nether regions.
Yeah. It's
so
like crawling
nasty.
with gross bugs, and there's mold.
She literally gives birth to things during the boss fight. Like, from it.
They burst out of it, and you have to, like, shoot her while she's, like, bent over giving birth to things.
It's disgusting.
It's really gross.
So you knock her down into a pit before this, and then she transforms and runs away, like, through this little tunnel. And Ethan, he gets down into the pit to follow her, and you can kind of see her with her lantern, like, scurrying away, and he just says, well, that's special. Like, it's just this really...
Yeah, it's like, again.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I've heard people talk about how they don't like Ethan's one-liners, and I can usually agree.
That's so good.
But that moment is really... Because it's like, really, you're going, oh, what just happened? Why? And Ethan's just like... Well, that's special.
It's really great.
So, he hasn't quite... but something that I want to touch on that, you know, and it will become more and more apparent as we talk about, like, seriously, his kind of demeanor changes throughout the whole game, and you get stronger and stronger as the game progresses. You get bigger guns, you fight crazier enemies. It just keeps escalating, and a lot of people don't like that about the game, and I can understand why. I take issue with a couple parts of it, actually. But someone, and I think it was Matt McMuscles, I'm not sure, someone that I watch on YouTube mentioned that as you become stronger, as you become from horror protagonist to action hero, this arc that Ethan goes on, like, that you are going on, really, as you get stronger and fight crazier and crazier things, as you just become numb to this insane thing that's happening to you, Ethan starts to, like, because he doesn't drop his first one-liner until you chainsaw fight Jack. And then it just kind of, he keeps more and more one-liners start dropping. He becomes the action hero as the game progresses. And someone noted that as a praise of the game, as opposed to something as a detriment. So I thought that was an interesting perspective.
I guess I just expected it from a Resident Evil game. Like, I wasn't anticipating being a weak, you know, horror protagonist because of the title. Like, I knew they were going for something else, but this isn't a Bluebird team game.
Yeah.
I wasn't anticipating that. So I guess that's just expectations.
Me too. Like, I didn't see that, you know, whenever I played I played it 3 times, I think, you know, and I just didn't expect it. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that they pointed that out. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, her boss fight is disgusting.
Yeah, it's, like, one of my favorite moments in the game.
It's so gross.
I enjoy it so much.
She bursts out of the window to grab you, and she's, like, pulling you toward her. Just gray, gross, just this like, just lithe arms and, like, just grabbing. It just giblets, man.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
That's why I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Which is awesome because right after that it transitions to Lucas's segment, which is kind of this Saw type thing. You know, you're in a puzzle. You got to figure. You're not in some sort of trap that will kill you. Like, you technically are, but it's not like a real Saw puzzle. But, you know, kind of that idea. You know, and he's kind of got you in his this massive little, I guess, quartered off section of the house. He's an engineer. There are wire traps everywhere. Screw those wire traps.
Oh, really?
Screw them. Because,
why?
like, I just, every once in a while, like, I'll be crouching under one, and it'll still hit me because I didn't realize it was supposed to be like a...
Did you not just hit them with your pistol?
I did sometimes. Sometimes I wanted to save ammo, and it's just being a little bit...
See, that's one of... I don't know if, like, the game is unbalanced or I'm just so good at conserving things. I never felt like I needed... I mean, sure, there are a few times where I run out of a thing, but then I can immediately stockpile
it's like
so
a
much.
Resi game, though.
In
I'm
RE2 and 7.
Trying to not use ammo. Like, no matter what.
I'm trying to, like, not be a consumable item hoarder. And ammo is a scarce consumable item in RE games, so that counts here. And I'm just going to use my stuff. Unless it's a flame round. I know to save those. Because they kill everything, and they're great against bosses. So saved flame rounds for both games, all 3 games. Saved flame rounds in RE2, 7, and 8. I saved my flame rounds to the very end, and they saved my life. However, I had so much handgun ammo to the point where I had, like, I don't know, 80 or so normal rounds and like 40 of the plus rounds. I just replaced my knife so I could use it as my, like, use my handgun plus rounds as just my normal. I'll open boxes with my handgun plus because I just had so many. So I didn't find that area difficult because I always had ammo to shoot them.
I didn't find it difficult. I just never shoot things. Like, ever. But I made it through. It's fine. It's just annoying. Just an annoying little prick.
I suppose.
I don't like him.
I enjoy the section, actually.
I know, I do too. I just don't like him.
I like his, like, place in the family, like why he's there.
He's a little prick though.
Yeah, I know, but I like that.
Sure. No, he's good. I liked his puzzle. I like that you can watch the video tape and then just walk right up and do the code and like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you throw dynamite through the wall. Like, just so ridiculous. It's good stuff though. I like that section.
That's not fair.
Yeah, he's a good kid. And then immediately,
silly.
So you have now fought Jack, Marguerite, fought quote unquote Lucas. You've beaten this puzzle, and the game shifts in my mind. This is where the game transitions to classic Resident Evil in my head. You fight mutated Jack. Eyeballs all over him. You know exactly what to shoot. Huge boss. Loaded up on shotgun shells. Loaded up on, flame rounds or whatever. Just blasting at this guy's eye holes. Give me back my eye holes!
Oh my god. Can someone mod RE7 to have that, like, every time you shoot one of his little eye sacs?
Please. And so then that happens, and then we'll talk about the next section, which is the biggest blight upon the game. Just the dumbest thing in the world. And then you get to the boat where you play as Mia. You have a little flashback with Mia, and then you have to navigate the boat in the current time with Mia, and it becomes a classic Resident Evil multi-floor kind of,
So what's in between those? What's the bad part?
Oh, we'll talk about it. And then you go to, and then right after that, you're kind of just moving through a more linear section, just blasting through some bad guys, and then you get to the big baddie at the end, like, which is so over the top and so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's insane.
It just becomes Resident Evil again. Like, full on, there's no, what is this new thing they're doing? What is this weird, gross, grimy feel? What is this, 70s, out the window. Resident Evil game again. And that's that moment when you fight Jack. The moment I was talking about is you have to choose between Zoe and Mia. Who'd you choose?
I chose Zoe because I don't care about Mia.
Okay, that's great. Doesn't matter at all.
Yes, I know. It was as soon as I selected my choice. I mean, I wasn't anticipating it. Like, I was like, I rolled my eyes. I made the selection just because, like, the game did not make me care about Mia at all. So I chose Zoe because it made more sense. I mean, he even says, while you're in the boat with Zoe, what good is she to anybody now? Talking about Mia, who you seemingly have let die. I didn't care. I chose the more sensible option, not the emotional option.
And then it slaps you on the wrist for it. Then you get this sad, quote-unquote, bad ending because you decided to pick someone when the game offered you a choice between two people and you just didn't like one of them because the game did no work to make you like them.
What is the bad ending?
Because you fly off alone, right?
Yeah.
At the end. Yeah, Mia's with you and happy and healthy. If you pick Mia, like, you go live your life happily ever after.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, it's dumb. It is so dumb. Like, don't slap me on the wrist for making a decision that, honestly, you're pushing me to because I don't care about her at all. Like, why are you
the
giving me a
assumption is...
Why is this
I
a
don't
moral
like
decision?
that. Yeah.
And then why does the next section of the game have no bearing on what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Like, based on what my decision.
Well, the bearing is, do you
But I mean, what happens?
The 20 little sisters, or are you a bad villain? Like, that's the
Yeah,
payoff
it's
you get.
simplistic and it just doesn't even need to be in the game.
No, I agree.
Just let Ethan be, like, I get it. You're trying to let Ethan be a faceless protagonist, but, and it works more in 7 than it does in 8, but let him be his own character. Like, he's already shown enough personality to be his own character. His motivation for being here is not 9.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better if it allowed you to make that decision, but then Mia steps in somehow, or like Zoe refuses maybe, but then the like dialogue changes, and maybe the ending of like, how you and Mia are interacting with each other is different. But if you're just gonna make it out, and if they're going to choose a canon ending, then just let that follow through. Just allow you as the player to make the choice, but the characters, because it's not an RPG. You are not Ethan. So just let the characters play out what you would have chosen.
And we'll touch more on this in 8, too. I think this problem comes back up again in 8, the Ethan versus player vehicle problem. I don't think it's... They kind of pussyfoot. They kind of have, one foot on both sides of the fence.
I don't recall this section. Or this choice. But we'll get to it.
No, there's no choice in 8. I just mean in terms of, like, how they present Ethan in 8. We'll talk about it. It's not that big a deal, because do you know how much I care about a Resident Evil story?
Not at all.
Not at all. Do you know how much I care about a Resident Evil game? Quite a bit. They're very fun. And so, like I said, you kind of progress through these other moments that are very much more Resident Evil. Over the top final boss, loop into the overarching Resident Evil narrative with Chris Redfield and Umbrella Corporation. All that stuff happens. And then, you get to your little DLCs and whatever else you want. But that's really it. Notice I just kind of breezed through the end of the game there.
Because it's so different, and if you've played a Resident Evil game, you know what to expect. And honestly, that was my least favorite time in the game.
It was my least favorite part of the game as well.
Not because it was particularly bad, but though I didn't like the environment.
The ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
really like
pretty mediocre.
But not just the, like, sort of environment you were in, the layout of it. I can't give you an example of another time that I've seen it, but for some reason, I don't seem to like those sorts of level layouts where it's like the central pillar, you can go up and down this pillar, and each floor wraps around it. Yeah. I don't really like that. That's fair. What this entire thing was.
And it's pretty simplistic compared to other really well-made, even within the same game, Resident Evil levels. So yeah, I'm fine just breezing past that stuff. The next section is just kind of an all, guns blazing, Hail Mary back to the main place where you can find Evelyn and dispatch her.
Yeah. Overall, very good game. I definitely recommend checking it out. At least the first half of this game is stellar.
Yeah, if you just want to fight through mutated Jack, you'll be... That's
more than half. That's far more than half. But I just really mean the house. The house and maybe the second environment. Those are awesome.
Yeah, and it's a short game if you want to finish it all anyway.
Yeah, it's like less. I think I put just under 8 hours in.
Yeah, it's really
pretty
short
game,
but a very good one. One I would highly recommend anyone check out. After playing it, this is my third time. I think it has unfortunately decreased to my third favorite Resi game. It used to be my second after Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I think that this game has fallen from grace a little bit just because of how weak that latter portion of the game is.
Yeah. And Village is a damn good game.
Village is fun. Let's talk about Village.
We will talk about Village in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back to talk about Village and have another beer.
Ooh, I like beer.
All right, so check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and also Patreon. $2 tier, you get into our Discord. If you've made it this far, do consider a like, maybe a review, like on Facebook. Not Facebook, YouTube, and a review on any podcast platform that you prefer. It really help us out. We'd love to build a community, talk about your favorite Resident Evil moments. We're still missing quite a few. I've played 4, 5, 7, and 8 now. I guess 2, so we're missing 3. The spin-offs, there's a lot of spin-offs.
Yep.
You've not played 5, right?
I've played the first half of 5.
Okay.
Never, and it was all co-op.
Oh.
Never played it solo.
I think it's the same game.
Okay.
But talk about your favorite Resident Evil moments. What do you think about that matchup? RE6 and Kane Lynch 2.
Let's do it.
I am very interested in that now. But just come join the community. We just did a bonus episode, a 2-parter bonus episode with the Gamer-esque podcast. They did a huge tournament, the GOAT tournament, the greatest game of all time, ranking the top 4 game of the years from every year from 2005 to 20 to find the best game of all time. So we took that algorithm, that bracket, and did our own episode. And We'll be doing an episode with them soon. But definitely go check their cast out, the Gamer-esque podcast, and ours as well, that bonus episode. It is audio only, but not for Patreon backers. You can just find that in the podcast feed. Anyhow, we'll be back soon.
Yep, thanks.
And we're back to share another beer and another game. Now we have an Imperial Porter, a stout. Oh, sorry, man. Totally forgot to give you your beer.
Yeah, I want it.
You want it. This is an Imperial Milk Stout. This one with ginger, cinnamon, honey, vanilla. What is happening? And coffee. This is their Christmas morning Imperial Milk Stout. I think they've done this a couple years. I'm not quite sure, but on their website they made it seem like
chocolatey as heck.
Really. I'm excited.
I like it.
They made it seem like this was a staple, and I've had a variation of this. I got just a huge package of Christmas beers. It was like on sale for $30. It was 2 of each of these cans and 4 750s. Just good stuff from Hardywood. I should get back on Tavor.
This is delightful. Maybe you shouldn't.
I shouldn't.
This is delightful.
I'm looking for... Wow.
I tell you, when I was in Maine, I went to Mason Brewing, and they had a couple different blends of some breakfast stouts. Wow. They had a cinnamon breakfast stout, and they had a chocolate breakfast stout, and they blended them together to make their number 5 breakfast stout. Seriously, one of the best stouts I've ever had.
Wow.
It was legendary. Just so
I don't
rich.
drink a lot of stouts. I don't not like them. But in terms of these really dark, really heavy beers, I think I now prefer barley wines. The only one I can remember having is the one we tried with Persona 5. I forget what it's called. This is also 9.2, by the way. I forget what it's called, but that was incredible. And if that is indicative of other barley wines, that's awesome. And I will be drinking more. I will also, if this is indicative of other Resident Evil games moving forward, we'll be playing more Resident Evil games. Because, Zach, I love Resident Evil 8.
I'm glad, man. I'm really surprised. When I was playing it, I was thinking, man, I don't think Tyler's going to like this one.
Really?
I don't think Tyler...
Tell me why.
So
let's talk about the differences first of this game.
Everything?
Just some surface level differences between this and 7.
Yeah, there's an entire market system selling. You can sell your guns. You can buy upgrades. You can really just whole
hunt.
Yep, you can hunt for food, which you can then make exquisite, fancy dishes out of. And
people like to talk about the cooking music in Breath of the Wild, but a grotesquely obese man mouth breathing over your food while he cooks for you might top that for me.
It's so good. The Duke, just in general.
I love the Duke.
Yeah, he's a good, like that same mysterious, kind of, what are you boying?
Yeah.
Kind of character. Yeah, he's great. But what I mentioned earlier is Village is paced the same way as 7. If we're going to talk about a similarity, it's bizarre. So you have your short intro, with the whole, horde coming in. And then you have the larger interior space that you're navigating, ending up with someone chasing you, ending with a big climactic boss fight, a kind of moment of relief, followed by 2 shorter sections, and then a longer
classic RE section.
Classic RE section, and then the finale. It is the exact same structure.
That's right. Now, this last, classic RE section is way better than an RE7, than the boat. Yeah.
It's way more fun. And I've heard a lot of people say it's their biggest complaint is that section, which is weird to me because I had a lot of fun in that section.
I had fun, but is it aesthetically they don't like it? Because there's some weird... That's when it gets okay, all right. You were B-movie before, but if you weren't, you definitely are. A guy who
directed a B-horror movie called Frankenstein's Army is suing them because he made a Propeller Man in his movie. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the Propeller Man is awesome. I love that his arms, he has cut his own arms off because of the propeller. It's so morbid and ridiculous.
You know who else should sue for RE8 ripping them off? Keanu Reeves. Let's just jump right to it. I was going to tell you about this earlier, but decided to wait. I didn't like Heisenberg. That last of the 4 main villains.
I liked his voice actor a lot.
That's what I didn't like. He's trying way too hard to just be Keanu Reeves.
I disagree. I think that he has a really strong voice. I think that the weakness to his character is the writing. I think that he is the most... He and Lady D are the most memorable voice actors from the bunch.
Lady D, definitely. I didn't care for Heisenberg's voice actor.
That's fair.
If it was Keanu Reeves, that would have been great. But it's not Keanu Reeves. He's trying to just do, not even be Keanu Reeves doing something else. He's trying to just be Keanu Reeves.
Resident Evil.
And it doesn't work. It's fine. It's serviceable. It works in that degree, but I just didn't like him very much.
That's fair. I thought it was a great performance, personally. I really enjoyed his work on that character.
I'm going to flip the table if it's nominated. I'm going to ask Keanu Reeves if he'll flip my table for me.
Yeah?
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be really great if he came over to just flip my table.
So let's talk Resident Evil Village and how it is the Resident Evil 4 of this section of Resident Evil games.
Well, real quick, now that we sort of... Well, no, we didn't talk about differences. We talked about what's the same.
So I guess this is what I was kind of going to say. Okay. 7 is very much... If you're going to compare it to any Resident Evil game, you really can't. It kind of stands alone, in my opinion. But mostly probably 1. Resident Evil 1 is probably the closest to 7. It's... I don't know, smaller, one kind of house setting. It has kind of a big crazy ending, I guess. I don't know. I think 7 kind of stands on its own, but 8 takes many of its best ideas from 4.
Okay.
The expanded inventory, the market system, the bigger focus on action, set piece to set piece kind of design with really solid build up to each. It's really a lot of its best ideas are from 4, I'd say. I'd say that 8, though, does a better job of balancing kind of classic Resident Evil back into that. The good level design, that kind of stuff. It's a little less kind of just, down the path than RE4 is to your next set piece kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which RE4 does have moments later in the game that are more traditional, but it's... it definitely stands on its own, but I'd say that 8 is very much a 4 type of game.
I won't disagree because I don't remember 4 very well, but I also made a sort of 4 comparison to Resident Evil 7 because I wonder if this is how Resident Evil will work now, which I'm fine with. Resident Evil 4, new Resident Evil. That brand new for the franchise, same as 7. 5, taking it up a notch, delivering some new ideas. The action is quicker. It's a more action focused game than 4. You got that with 8, and then 6 is nuts. It's over the top. And if the ending is to be followed up on, and you are just playing Resident Evil with superpowers, will we get another Resident Evil 6? And that's the cycle.
Honestly,
from now on.
I wouldn't mind.
No,
I can see
fine.
that. I guess I mean 4 more in terms of gameplay
I know what you
than
mean.
structure.
Just a different
but I like
comparison
that
I made.
observation. It's a good one. Yeah, that's really good. Another major difference, though, is the horror is not center stage anymore.
No, absolutely not.
It's very much a horror genre game. You know what I mean? It's not always trying to scare you. Now,
Yeah, more like 2.
yeah, exactly. But it has its moments.
It does. It absolutely does. But before we jump into that now, why did you think I was going to prefer?
Yeah.
After you had already started this, solidifying your vote.
So number one, the more action focus. I know you're a big, the tone and the atmosphere is a little bit more scattered. The village helps grounds it, but it is we talked about how 7 is episodic. This is episodic ratcheted up more. It's very, like, some might even call it disjointed. I wouldn't. I think because of the village, everything fits together really well. In fact, I think the village is the only reason that crazy how vastly different each episode works at all.
Yeah.
I think because of coming back to the village, that there's always more to explore with the new key items you've picked up. You get to know the village a little bit better each time you come back.
It's still hard to know. That village is convoluted nonsense.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. You don't like it?
It's all of it. I like the village itself. Like, aesthetically, I think
like
the village is great.
Crazy having to find your way through.
Dude, I played this game for 10 hours and still didn't know how to get into the middle of the village.
Oh, really? I feel like I have a good handle on it now.
Especially now that I'm like 3 days... So I just finished it. I'm like 3 days off of it. I think I finished it on Saturday, sometime on Saturday. Maybe Friday. Anyway, if I were to go back now, wouldn't know
now, I will
how to
say
get
the
through
village
it
is
all.
not like some, brilliantly designed location. I mean, aesthetically it is. It's of course, it's Resident Evil, well-researched, gorgeous, well-designed in terms of that. But I'm talking about in terms of the level, the layout. Nothing super special about it there, especially for a Resi game. But because you come back to it, and because it goes from this crazy, scary place to slowly a place that you become relaxed in and accustomed to, you don't have to have that Bloodborne safe haven. You don't have to have that the safe rooms anymore like you do in other Resi games. It kind of more fluidly becomes a safe space for you. I really like it, and that being the connector between the areas really lets each area, you have your little cooldown and then you move to the next episode. I think it works really well.
It does. Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps with the pace. You're right. It sort of brings all of those seemingly disparate environments together. But just the level design of, like, really when you get into the maze area of the maze-like area of the dilapidated houses and tractors and things like that, I mean, I just couldn't wrap my head around it for some reason.
That's fair.
And I think the biggest thing, I could never remember this, is one of the houses has its doorway broken. Now, the entire wall is not broken. The doorway has been broken out of the wall, though it's still a doorway you walk through. But it's not marked as a doorway on the map because it's not a physical door you open. It's just technically a hole in the wall. And I always forget that. I can walk through that. But I'm like searching everywhere, looking at my map. Where am I supposed to go to get into the center here? You have to walk through that house.
Sure.
It's not marked with a door.
I get it. I do. I also ran into some trouble with that same moment, actually, that same place. So, yeah, I get it. But yeah, let's talk about. So this is funny. I think that you and I actually didn't think I was gonna like the game that much at first because of Lady D's castle. I know that's basically internet heresy at this point.
Yes.
I actually think that Lady D's section is the weakest part of the game. And I also think that is entirely my subjective opinion, and I don't think I can back it up with much fact. I just, for some reason, playing it, found that pretty uninteresting, a little bit bland and boring. It had some really good moments, the little bell puzzle, finding the sniper rifle, just really fun moments in there. But overall, as a kind of classic Resident Evil multi-tiered Raccoon Police Department kind of style area, I don't know. I just found myself, especially going through the dungeons and stuff, just not that engaged with what was going on. I can't quantify that. I bet you now that I have kind of fallen in love with the game, if I were to go back, I'd have a lot more fun with it. Also, the part of it's just Lady D is not that threatening.
No, unfortunately, she's really underplayed here. I wish she was more
and
of
I
a
mean,
presence.
You can just stand in that safe room and she'll walk like into the safe, like just kind of, that terrible Oblivion NPC walking.
Now, she never did that for me, but she did just turn around as though I had disappeared.
Yeah, it makes her, and technically, Mr. X does that too, but what Mr. X does differently in Resident Evil 2 Remake is he is on your heels in places that you can't get away from him.
Yeah.
So when you go in to try to fix the gears for the bell tower, he'll duck into the door in there and mess with you and try to catch you. I never found myself cornered by her unless I was just being dumb. Like there weren't puzzles like a lot of the puzzles I had to finish were just totally out of her range, basically.
Yeah, and I don't think she ever got me.
No, she never got me once.
I let her kill me once.
But yeah, I did the same thing.
But I don't think... I could be wrong. I don't think she ever got me. And I also don't know if this is true. Just thinking about this right now about why that is with Mr. X, why it feels like he's always... Or like he doesn't do that, where, he just turns away as though you disappeared. I think... At least just from what I can remember, it's been several months now, almost a year, since I played 2. I think the places where you are running away from him are one room removed from the save slots.
Yeah, I can only think of one
another
safe room
before you get to the safe room, and usually it's as though he didn't come through that door, so it doesn't feel like he just disappeared like a stupid gamey moment.
That's true. There's only one safe room, because I guess this would be my third playthrough of Resi 2, and I can only think of one safe room that I've seen him just walk away from, and it's the same one. I never seen him walk away from another safe room, and my favorite part is that main hall, he'll just walk right through it no matter what. That place that you had initially become kind of your home base because of the police officer who was there.
Yeah.
He'll just tromp right through there. I love that.
Yeah, it's not a safe room. It's just a saved spot.
Exactly. It's really good. So yeah, I agree. I think Lady D was not implemented well. And then I think a lot of people will probably be disappointed that she just transforms into a crazy giant monster.
I didn't... let's back it up to the castle just a bit. Upon reflection, I think I agree with you. It's the weakest spot in the game. I don't think it's poorly designed. I had fun. I guess more fun than you did. But I thought initially that the water area was the weakest part. But upon reflection, I did have quite a bit of fun going through that whole area. So,
and it's tense. It's not scary, but man, the water section is tense.
Yes.
Because it feels like you're going so it feels like you're walking through molasses in that area, and he will just splash out of nowhere coming at you. You're like, go Ethan, go Ethan, go.
I just hear in my head the fish is coming. Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan.
Amazing.
It's so good. So
that is one thing to say. I think despite how exaggerated the personalities are here, I think the Baker family carries a stronger personality overall than the cast of RE8.
Yeah, because it's a family.
And it's more intimate.
Kind of try to play at that here, but only in one scene. So it's really like not a thing. Like these folks are not a family, these
Absolutely.
villains.
Yeah, I think that and that's not a slight against 8. I think that they are fun and they're interesting and they're wacky and they all fill their roles well. I just think if you're going to stack them against each other, 7 would definitely be superior.
Yeah, I really wish Lady D was more of a presence because she's awesome.
What a well-designed... It's just a testament to how well-designed she is that the internet just suckled at her toes. Like, they are just there, ready.
Because it's all they could reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, the first time you really get up and close with her is when you're hiding outside of her window, and she sits down at a vanity. She calls Lady or Mother Miranda.
Yeah.
And talking on the phone. And she's, like, really pissed off that you're around her castle. Like, you're just a rat running around her castle. And she throws this entire, like, Victorian-era vanity with the mirror intact. Like it's this game animal case that I'm flinging off the table. She's threatening. She's like an imposing force, but in the game, she doesn't do much of anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. 10,000%.
I wish it would, because she's awesome.
She's so well designed. I really like her. But yeah,
and it's the confidence too. Like, you know, I don't harp on like super sexy women all the time. You know, we don't really talk about that much. We did a little bit in the Game of the Year episode with Nyx, but it's the confidence that she exudes.
Yes.
I wish they would play on that more. And you know, they kind of do, like the way she approaches you, and she just. You are so small to her, and there's this like weird emotion I have towards her, but the game just doesn't push that far enough.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? People have mentioned this. People have said it a lot. I don't think Capcom knew what they had on their hands.
Maybe. That's a good point. Maybe not.
I don't think Capcom was aware, and a lot of people have mentioned, I bet you right now they're totally ripping out all their plans for the DLC and making a Lady D DLC.
Just straight up Lady D DLC. Yep. Yeah, that'll be the first one.
I bet you that's what's happening.
Or it'll be the biggest one. Maybe not the first. Because if they do, like, scrap everything, like, maybe they do some stupid smaller stuff, you know, well, maybe not stupid, but like, no, some of the smaller stuff for 7.
Yeah, like, you know, a little roguelike experience and stuff.
But, yeah, I bet they shift focus and have this be...
I don't think they knew what they had on their hands, man.
Lady D.
But even with that, it's not the best implemented, regardless.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the weakest section of the game, which sucks because it comes out. The opening is really strong. You have this Coraline like folktale, like I mean Coraline level animation. It's beautiful.
It's really, really good.
And it's a little creepy story, and you're just walking around your house. Then, you know, Chris bursts in and murders everyone. We'll talk about that. How Chris just needs to communicate. The guy's obviously never been married. Just tell Ethan what's happening.
Yeah, he treats Ethan like, I said no, Ethan.
Yeah.
I said sit down.
Yeah, he's like an infant / animal. Like,
yeah, well, like, so let's talk about the opening. I want to talk about the very beginning in a moment, but, you know, when the shootout happens and a soldier comes downstairs with the baby.
Your wife is literally ripped to shreds in front of your eyes, and your baby is being taken away from you, and you're supposed to just assume that Chris is on your side. Like, he's expecting you to just trust me, Ethan. Like,
yeah.
No.
So you like rush over to him, and you're like frantically trying to figure out what's going on,
and he has now the opportunity to communicate to you everything that is happening.
Yeah, but also, so he doesn't. He's just like, no, Ethan. And Ethan backs away. Like, what a loser.
Yeah, like, which is, first of all, not the way he behaves in the rest of the game.
Or as a father, he would behave.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think I know some people that would behave
Sure,
like
but
that.
even
like people I hope don't have to be in the situation of protecting their family because I know they will fail.
Yeah, Ethan also, this is the Ethan post 7, the guy who has become the action hero already. Like, Ethan is totally fine. Like, he would totally get in his face and be like, oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Chris.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so dumb.
It's, like, I think it, and the reason it doesn't come up and why I don't really care is because I don't care about Resident Evil stories. I know many people who do. My wife is one. Some of the What's Good Games ladies are big fans of the story. And that's great.
I mean, it's probably,
and
honestly,
I'm glad that you are. For me, though, it doesn't even matter a little bit.
yeah, it's probably so much fun to have grown up with that entire series and just see all of these connecting dots.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have Umbrella Chronicles up there on the Wii. My wife played that. She's played basically every Resi game. Yeah, she's a huge fan. So I get it. I do. But for someone like me, like when something dumb like that happens and people talk about it on podcasts as a detriment to the game, I'm like, sure, it's not good, but it impacts my
It's a
experience
Resident Evil
maybe
game. What were you expecting?
This much, you know?
Yeah,
Like
my first, I mean, I played RE4 when I was a kid. I played it with my cousins. I didn't directly play it. I played, like, sat there, backseat gamer the whole time. They did let me play a little bit, and I was the best in the room, even at, like, the age of 9, at managing inventory. So they would just, like, hand me the controller when they needed to purchase new items. Because you have to play Tetris with that whole thing.
You do.
Here in 8.
although it's much more convenient here in 8.
Yeah, did things have, like, different shapes in 4? I don't remember.
They do, but they don't, like, immediately, like, you know, when you move it up to your, like, quick select, it'll, like, make it vertical for you automatically or whatever. Or, you know, in 8.
No. I mean, in 4,
Yeah,
did
I
things
just
have
mean-
different weird shapes?
They did, but, like, they wouldn't automatically turn a certain way or, you know, do something like that for you.
Oh, so you had to, like, leave it in the orientation.
No, you could
move it?
turn it, but, like, you know how 8 will, like, if you drag it up to a, like, certain slot, you can, like, you know, it'll automatically monkey
You mean
it.
7?
No, I'm talking about 8. 7 does it too, but in 8, like, if you move it to a shortcut, it won't, you know. Okay, never mind.
No, in 8.
I'm talking about 7, sorry. In 7,
Yeah.
it'll move it to a shortcut and do that automatically.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was like, you don't have to do that in 8.
And in 8, it's so much easier to flip stuff around and move stuff around. In 4, it's a literal nightmare.
Yeah, well, I was pretty good at it as a kid. That was my first Tetris experience. And then I fell in love. Anyway, then I moved on to 5. I played that as a young adult. So I had barely played Resident Evil. Might as well say I hadn't played Resident Evil up to 5. And my first major experience was punching boulders. So at that point, I don't care at all.
Doesn't he call them? What does he call him?
Oh, it's one of my favorite moments in the game. In the second to last boss fight, Heisenberg is like, you know, he's talking a lot of smack about you and Chris, and he's like, I'm gonna kill that boulder punching asshole. I love it. I was playing early in the morning. I woke up early to play it. I woke my wife up because I was laughing so hysterically.
It's so good. But yeah, I think so. I guess going back, it's much definitely the biggest part of the game, but it moves into my opinion the strongest part of the game, which is the dollhouse section. And for me, what makes it strong is, you know, everybody will say it. This is PT. Like, that's what they're going for. Mm-hmm. It's obvious. You even have the baby imagery, right? You got a little BB in there.
Yeah.
You know? It's obvious. But what Resident Evil does is it takes what it knows and it incorporates it so seamlessly. So you go to this you take the elevator down and you go to this little dollhouse section and you have this really weird mannequin of your wife. And you're having to, like, dissect her, basically.
Yeah, a bunch of parts come off, and you can find parts to a large puzzle. Find parts
that spans
in
basically
her.
this whole floor, almost.
Yeah.
And you it takes a while to solve the puzzle, actually. Probably a good 30 minutes or so, if not a little longer, depending on how much you're paying attention and looking at the details and stuff. But you learn your way through. I mean, you know where the dead ends are. You know where the loop-de-loops are. You learn it. And then the game scares you. I think that is
this is a good scare. It's not a jump scare. This is because the sounds happen a pretty decent amount of time, like probably I don't know,
about halfway
15
there.
seconds before you actually get the visual feedback.
You finally make it through the door, you go down in the well, you find the key item you need, one of the two key items you need to get out. So you need to get out, back up the elevator, basically. So you find one of the items, you get up, you hear a baby crying, the cradle's rocking, and you go back up, the cradle's broken. And the best part is you go out, so all the lights have turned off, and you go back out, and the first thing you see is that same mannequin just blown apart, basically.
Oh, is that what happened? I thought it was just gone.
No, it's blown apart, and it's a trail as if she has given birth.
Yeah, because it's an umbilical cord.
Yeah,
leading
and
out
there's
to the
blood.
room.
There's trail of blood leading out, and the way back to where you're supposed to put this fuse in is, of course, to follow the trail of blood. And so you go, it's very dark. You can only see a couple feet in front of you because of your flashlight. And you hear the wailing of this baby.
And laughing. Simultaneously.
Yeah, and so you walk forward, and there's no, there's no jump. It just...
No, because you hear it, and then you so it's like a T-shaped hallway, and you're walking down the length of the hallway, and you hear it long before you see it, and then you slowly see it, depending on how far up you walk, you slowly see it move into vision. So it's very intentionally, it's carefully not a jump scare.
And it is, it shook me.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, and the design combined with the build-up, because here's the problem.
All the design, visual, the mechanical design, and the auditory design.
And the best part is you know where to go. Mm-hmm. The game has given you the chance, because the what kills tension more than anything else in a video game is death.
Yeah.
Like in a horror video game.
Like when you have to do that again.
Yeah. Like if I die in a horror video game, I think this is something that I would like to see Resident Evil games address, because it happens in Resi games. Thankfully, this didn't happen to me, and the game prepared me for it, which good on you. But if I die, the tension maybe not gets killed, but is definitely decreased significantly.
Significantly, yeah.
And so I think that's a problem that horror games should try to address, and some have. But maybe something like AAA, big like this, maybe they should start thinking about it a little more. But what this game does is it says, you know where to go. You know where the loops are. We are not going to make you stumble through and maybe die, maybe not, based on your dumb luck of trying to find out where to go. You know it. And then you get to another area you haven't been to before. And if you take your time, you can find the hiding spots. You can find where you're supposed to, how you're supposed to get around the what did you call it? The horrifying baby fetus vagina monster.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's
vagina baby fetus.
That's what it is.
So it is a fetus, but also a giant baby. Like, it has arms, it's crawling around, it has a fully formed head and legs, but is bloody, and it doesn't have fully formed flesh. It's still attached to the umbilical cord like a fetus, but its mouth and it's huge. It's taking up this entire hallway. It's crawling at you.
And you can hear it scraping itself along.
It's simultaneously a toddler crying and hysterically laughing and calling out for its daddy in both of those states of mind. It's disgusting, but its mouth is also, it comes down to part of its chest, is a giant void-like vagina. It's unlike anything I've seen.
It's I remember that moment happened, and I texted Nick and Tyler, and I just said, someone on this team needs psychological help.
Yes.
Psychiatric care. It's so disturbing and so tied to that dread of fatherhood kind of idea, It's good stuff. But yeah, you can. My favorite thing is if you are running away from it the second time you encounter it, you have to run back and basically hide under a bed or in a closet. There's only 2 places I know to hide in that room. But if you haven't taken the time to look around that room and figure out what's there, the first option that will present itself to you is to hide under the bed. But there are 2 different directions to hide under the bed. You can go the other way from the back or the first one you see from the front. If you go through the front, the baby will walk all the way around and you will have to get out from under the bed while it is directly in front of you and run backwards? Away. You can't turn around under the bed when you get under there.
Can you just crawl backwards?
I don't know. Okay. But I know that you'll be facing it the whole time. I couldn't turn around when I went in the other way because I didn't see the closet, but I did know that there was another way under. So I went under.
Yeah, so it also introduces you to that only once used mechanic. It introduces you to that long before you need it. Mm-hmm. In the second room of this downstairs area, this whole puzzle, this whole encounter, there's a closet there. You open it, there's no items there. But it's also just like a huge space. And I just walked in and then you get a prompt to close it.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'm sure that's going to be used. And there were, I think, 2 other. I left that one open, and I think there were 2 other, at least one other place that you found these closets. And I was like, I'm just going to leave this open to save myself a little time. Game design.
Yeah, it's really clean, giving the player the a lot of people say, horror is lack of control. And I think that's too facile. I think it's just way too surface level to say it like that. Because if I have no control over a situation, then I'm just going to disengage from the game. My investment in that situation has basically been cut off. I go, I can't control this? Okay, I'll let the game just play out. This is supposed to happen.
Because then you're just watching a horror movie.
Exactly. But not even, because you've gone from being fully invested to, okay, this isn't me anymore. So it's even less than watching a horror movie, in my opinion. Okay. That level of relief, that cutoff.
Sure.
Because I could watch something on a horror movie that's just as scary and be more scared because I've been engaged with it as a movie that whole time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So in my mind, what I think is you need to give the player just enough control so that when the scare occurs, when you're trying to genuinely get them frightened, they have enough control to remain invested in the situation. But just enough. Just enough control to know where to go, but not know where the what did we call it? The BFV?
Vagina baby fetus.
Yeah, so I'll call it the BFV.
VBF.
Okay, the VBF.
Like VBS.
Oh, good. Yeah. Very similar.
Well, let's all go to Vacation Bible School to learn about vagina baby fetuses.
Yes, so you won't know the VBF is. You don't know how the VBF will behave. That is the new element, right? But you, it's so funny, but you as the player have enough control over the other parts of the situation to let that be the scary part, to let that be the non-controlled part. Now, this is not a fully fledged idea of mine. This is just me kind of thinking, but I bet, investigating it further could really sharpen that and come to an interesting conclusion about that kind of how to handle horror in terms of video games.
Yeah. I harken back to this a lot, but I think Bloober Team does it. Okay, I've only played one Bloober Team game, being Observer, which has become one of my favorite games and second favorite horror game. Far and away.
I love that we both have the same favorite horror game.
Yeah,
Darkwood's just that good.
You can't even come close.
Yeah, Darkwood's just that good.
That was such a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
It's amazing.
Darkwood, please. So, anyway, I think they do it very successfully in that game because it is a very cinematic game. It's a pretty straightforward video game. It's linear, that is. But anytime that the tension is there, you have this much hope that you can make it out. And you always do, because it's, I think, masterfully crafted to provide that experience, to make it feel like you have just barely enough hope of getting out alive. You're always going to get out alive. It's almost like sort of inverse of not inverse, it's just applied differently. What I was talking about earlier with the supplies you have in RE7 and 8, and really just video games in general, I think they're good at making you feel like you don't have enough. But you really do. You've got all the tools you need. They've prepared you very well. They've given you the save spots right before the boss fight. They've given you suddenly there's 20 handgun ammo here. What's this for? Game? They make you feel like you have just enough. And then when you're out of the situation, you're right back where you started or barely set back in terms of like the level of resources you have and stuff. So that was a bit of a rant. But I think horror games do that pretty well today. We're going to find out later this year. We're going to play a few modern horror games with Visage.
And we're finally going to play Silent Hill.
Yeah. I'm so excited for Silent Hill.
How have I put that off for so long?
It's been a long time. I'm going to play the remakes. The worst way to play those. I'm not going to do it.
Thank God.
I'm going to play. I'm going to buy a copy.
For $120.
Oh, is that all it is? I thought that was like $400.
I think Silent Hill 1's still just $120.
Is 2 really expensive?
I think it's around the same. I don't remember though.
Oh. I mean, I probably won't buy them, but I thought they were way more expensive.
I know Silent Hill 1 I think I have on PS3 via download.
Yeah, the PS1 version.
Yeah. That's
what I'm going to play. I meant the wildly inferior
PS3 HD.
Yeah, the
Dude,
HD
again,
stuff.
I mentioned him already. Matt McMuscles. He's got a What Happened on that remaster.
Oh yeah,
it's one of his best episodes. Definitely check it out. I might watch it tonight in bed. Actually, no, I haven't watched Scott's new video.
Oh, it's a good one.
I want to watch. It's a good topic.
So let's move on to the next area, which is the water place.
Fishman.
Well, no, a couple more words on this. We spent a lot of time on the dollhouse. It's a great scene.
It's brilliant.
A brilliant little isolated section. It's probably going to go down as one of my favorite moments this year.
It's definitely going to be on my list.
However, I think it's so far removed from the rest of this game, I almost don't consider it part of the game.
I can totally see, and
it's even removed from the map. You can't go back there.
I think people who say that, this game has an identity crisis, I know some who feel that way. I don't think they'd be thinking that way if this part wasn't in the game. I think the other parts, even if they were a little bit different, wouldn't seem as different. Like I said, Resident Evil has always been episodic, but this episode really stands out. So I mentioned that RE7 is very much inspired by those slasher movies. And for the most part, I think 8 is inspired by 2 major things. I think gothic romance, and I think that the other is folk horror. I think there's a lot of folk horror in here.
Definitely with the opening and introducing the village and what the people are
Mother
doing.
Miranda and the overall plot of the game. So the overall of Resident Evil 8 is inspired by those, but you can pick each section of the game and identify a different inspiration for it. And very clearly, and I think, and this might just be me trying to defend it, so don't take this is just me being a little subjective probably. I think just because of how well done this section is and how just incredibly clean it is, that maybe that's why it stands out a little bit stronger than the others and maybe feels more disjointed, because the others kind of can fit together. So you have the kind of the gothic romance on full display,
but also you have the mechanical consistency. You're still playing Resident Evil 8 in those other sections. This is almost a different game. We didn't mention, you're stripped of all your items. The only thing you're doing is solving a large puzzle, and then you leave. There's zero fighting in this entire house, which there's more to do in the upper level when you finally escape, but it's still without your items. You don't have anything. You're just solving the puzzle to get out of the house.
So I was going to say, so you have gothic romance on the first one. If you go to the Fishman, I'd say that there's a lot of Resident Evil 4 there. I think Resident Evil 4 is the most apparent in that section.
Okay. Not just because of the fish fight in Resident Evil 4.
In fact, I don't. No.
Not at all because of that.
Not at all.
But
I think that's just I think
it's more the level design.
No, it's the level design. It's the pacing. It's the way the fight plays out. In fact, I don't even think it has. I think the fish fight is actually, while memorable, has basically nothing to do with how that feels like Resident Evil 4.
I just want to make it clear that's not what you're talking about.
And then I'd say the next section is very much B-movie horror, mech men, just all that stuff.
It's very silly.
I love it, dude.
I enjoyed it so much. Yes, I think it's great as well.
It's kind of that schlock horror.
I thought I wasn't going to like it. I was like, oh my God, a drill hand? Come on. We go from werewolves to men with drill hands, arms, I guess. But it was fun. It was a great level design. It was tense. Well, not too tense.
Definitely not as tense as the fish fight.
I had so much ammo in that play.
Just rip them to shreds.
Yeah, it
feels so good. It
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then you kind of move into just kind of Resident Evil at the end there, but with a lot of that folk horror coming back in. But if you look at the dollhouse, there is one inspiration, and it's PT.
There's nothing else.
It's like, let me be a Kojima fanboy for a second. Like, everybody knows him from Metal Gear Solid. But he just picks up one day and goes, "Hey, Guillermo, you want to make a horror game? We'll get all Norman, go and do some facial capture for us. It'll be good stuff." And sure enough, he makes one of the most influential horror games of all time, and it's a demo.
It's like a 2-hour demo that no one can ever play again.
Like, what? How? This isn't even your genre. You've never done anything like this before. Sorry, I'm a huge Kojima fanboy.
God, I wish I could play PT, man.
Me too. I think
what a
someone mentioned
legend.
Someone mentioned the other day that they know someone who played it and might still have it on their PlayStation. I said, "Listen, I'd like to be a terrible person and tell them I want to buy that PlayStation from them, but you can sell that on eBay right now."
Why? Why wouldn't you just offer to buy the PlayStation? Trade them your PlayStation 5 for that PlayStation.
No. I just mean, I wanted to be honest with them and say, here's
Listen, I try to be an honest person as often as possible. To a fault, often. I'm pretty blunt. But if someone tells me, "Oh yeah, I've got this stupid horror game downloaded, PT, it's like 2 hours, whatever." Listen, I have keys right here. They belong to a car that's outside. Trade ya. Honestly, I just completely uninsured my car because it's worth nothing. Other people are insured if they get hurt. But if I wanted to fix the paint around the keyhole where the scratches are, my car would be deemed total. That's how piece of crap it is.
Amazing. Yeah, so I think that there is definitely argument that this stands apart from the game, and is I wouldn't say a fault to the pacing. I don't think it messes with the pacing. It definitely messes with, it feels disjointed from the game.
But it's also physically disjointed from the game. It's up in a mountain that you can never go back to. You take an elevator up to the house, and when you come back down, you can't use that elevator ever again.
Yep, absolutely.
So it is also, it's just an idea that's literally off to the side.
And you know what, though? I don't want it to leave the game.
No, I love that it exists, but I do think it messes with the pacing. It's literally a different game that's happening in this game.
I don't think it messes with the pacing, but I could see how it would make the game feel disjointed, which I can see the argument for that being a part of the pacing, I guess. Now that I say those words out loud, and it sounds pretentious that I make a distinction, but I don't know. I didn't feel like it was like it pulled me out. Now it could be that I did that section at 11 p.m. That's the last thing I did that day.
Maybe
that might have something to do with it, just like any episodic show. But I definitely understand that, and despite those complaints, I would rather have it in the game than not.
I would rather have it in the game because
and I would rather it not be a standalone thing by itself either.
No, I think this would be better if it were DLC for Resident Evil 8.
That I think that's fair. Yeah, I think it needs the rest of Resident Evil 8 to really succeed, because it does, and I think specifically it needs to be after a section, a long, beefy, lots of tension, big payoff, nice, relaxing moment after something like Lady D's castle.
That's not why I think it should be there. I just don't think it would be given its due if Capcom just released a digital title that's 45 minutes long.
I agree.
So I like that it's there so people can experience that and maybe just get a taste for that sort of horror.
What I'm saying, though, is it fits well within 8 where it is. I think that's the right spot for it.
Yeah, I don't think you could place it anywhere else, but I think as a whole, RE8 would be better with something else there.
I don't know. I think I might disagree.
I think it's removed. I agree with, I guess, the masses that, because I've heard a lot of that complaint as well. I think that it does a disservice to the overall game because it is such a fast-paced game in comparison to 7, or maybe even just other Resident Evil games, aside from maybe 6. It's so fast-paced. It's more of an action game than certainly any RE game that I've played. And
I guess I need more time to really quantify it, but I don't know, I have this gut feeling that, like, because it happens right after something like Lady D's castle, before the game really ramps up the action. Like, I mean, because Lady D's castle, I mean, there's action there, but definitely less than the rest of the game. Much less. But it is a high-tension, action-y experience still, especially at the boss fight at the end.
Ooh, which we never talked about.
We'll touch back on that in just a sec. But yeah, like, you have this awesome build-up. It's the longest section of the game, Lady D's castle. And then you have this nice little drop-off. And then you go to the section of the game where, you're right, it is disjointed. It's removed. It doesn't use the existing mechanics. If that went later in the game, it would definitely not work as well. But because you have that, and because you're expecting just the fish section next, right? I think it might work better because you're not going into just a standalone PT-like experience. You're not going in expecting something like that. You're not going in with those preconceived baggage and judging it like that. You're going in playing Resident Evil 8. And then you have this moment that fits as a horror game and even as a Resi game with the puzzle design. And you've already been taught how to solve those kinds of puzzles and interact with the environment that way. I don't know. I think you're right. It's definitely not perfect, and it definitely doesn't fit perfectly, but I think there is an argument to be made for that it does work there.
I think there's credence to both sides of the argument. I definitely see where you're coming from, but I think after that larger environment with not much action, a small environment with more action, and then leading into the fish area, which doesn't have a ton of action either. There's one small part in there.
But it's very high tension.
It's high tension, but it's not high action, which I think is a pretty important distinction, which adds a lot to that area for me anyway. I think doing something, honestly, the complete opposite, because I felt there was plenty of downtime in Lady D's castle. So you go from that. I mean, it is right after the boss fight, which is the peak of that.
That's what I guess I'm trying to...
But the environment, looking at each individual environment, Lady D's castle, there's plenty of exploration, little action in it until you get to the boss fight. I think you could safely move into something smaller, but way more high octane, and then move into something bigger, the fish area, less octane, much more tension, and then lead back into something like this fictional second area that I'm talking about, like leading into the stronghold, which is one of my favorite moments of the game. That huge swarm of lichen, which are two of my favorite moments of the game. The opening to this game is, well, not like the opening before Mia gets killed, but when you first show up in the village and there's the swarm of lichens and the big guy shows up, that whole set piece is going to go down as one of my favorite moments this year. It was incredible. And the fact that I was able to live through it, I did it on my first try.
Especially right after 7,
just adds to that. That's when I was like, okay, this game is way better, in my opinion. I think it's because you talked about it earlier, dying in a horror game. The fact that I didn't die, I think really added to my experience there. And it was so intense. I fell in love with that moment. And you finally get in there, and the facial work on the old hag is incredible. So you go straight from that, and she's like, this way. And she leads you into the church, or next to the church, and you just have this little conversation talking about Mother Miranda. That flow, that everything about that whole scene leading into the just huge sigh of relief in the graveyard is awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think you could have done something similar there.
Maybe.
In place of the house. Again, I love that it exists. I think it would have been... We wouldn't be talking about it, debating its merits. If it were DLC, we would just be saying, wow, oh my god, look at that. Everybody go play this.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like...
I don't think it does much for the game as a whole. I think it's amazing.
I need to play it again, but I really think that there is something to be said for its placement in the game and it being a part of Resident Evil 8 as a whole. I think there is, like you said...
I could be wrong.
No, I think
maybe
that...
I get a different take on a second playthrough.
No, I think that there is a sacrifice to it. I think you're right. There is some disjointedness that occurs because of its placement there. But I also think it does some stuff that maybe adding it as a DLC and especially releasing as a standalone game wouldn't be able to do.
I don't know about the DLC. I already... I was the first to say the DLC. I don't think people would experience this. We wouldn't be talking about it if it were that standalone DLC. They just dropped the little thing on
the
PSN.
Standalone game.
Yeah.
But DLC maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess
I don't know about DLC.
We shall never know.
I guess not.
But yeah, that's a good discussion. I'm glad that that was one that I was looking forward to, is that discussion. I think it's one of the more interesting ones floating around right now. Lots of different opinions. Ragnarox, please drop a video about Resi 8. I need it.
He needs it. I didn't get to mention the opening of this game, the actual opening in the house with Mia and your daughter Rose. So last year, our launch episode was Walking Sims, and finally, I had played Gone Home, and I fell in love with this game. I'm way hotter on this game than you are. I know you don't like it very much.
I don't like it very much. It's a great game. I just didn't...
You could leave it though, right?
Yeah, I could.
Okay. I don't know why I haven't. I gotta get it on Switch before it goes up. Because, it's an easy enough game to just pop in the Switch and play. Performance-wise. So, anyway. I fell in love with Gone Home. I really regret missing the whole discussion back in the day, 2013 maybe. But finally got to play it last year. And the opening of RE8 reminded me so much of Gone Home. The house is so incredibly detailed. So you and Mia are on the couch with Rose, and she goes to finish dinner. Mia goes to finish making dinner, and you go to put Rose down for bed. And you just get to explore the house. And they're seemingly pretty wealthy people. They've probably been given a lot by the government. They've gone into hiding because so I guess the canon ending was that you picked Mia. Now, I didn't actually perceive it that way. I just thought, oh, they found Mia, like she survived. Like I didn't even think about that choice because it was so meaningless.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they found her in the rubble. Anyhow, you get to fully explore that house, see just their whole life. And it's so incredibly detailed, and it's a cross-gen game, but It's a good looking game, and to see a house so densely packed realized to that degree, like What Remains of Edith Finch. This is a big step up from that, but just like that game, super densely packed. So much to explore, so much history in that house. I would love to see a fully remade Gone Home game. Just put the same voice work in there. I don't care. Just remake the whole house. That would be incredible to me. But that's all I want to say about the opening. I wouldn't mind playing Gone Home again on the PS5.
I'm glad that Resi 8 of all games brought you that feeling.
Yeah.
It's odd.
It's very odd. But that's the first feeling I got from this game. Wow, I want to go play Gone Home again right now.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's move on, I guess. Before we move on to the Fishman, you wanted to mention Lady D's boss fight.
I just thought it was so out of place for a Resident Evil boss.
I feel like
from what little I know.
In Resi boss is the little box that you just run around in the circle to avoid the boss.
Oh, it's a visual design that I think. The mechanical design also was very lackluster, but this
I liked
was
it when she flew away and you got to use the rifle.
Sure.
I thought that was, and you got to shoot her before she dumps all the bats or whatever. Bats. Freaking bats.
She dumps bats on you?
I don't know, she just launches a bunch of something at you. Not sure what it is.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, if you shoot her in time, if you shoot her in time, she won't do it.
Okay.
But I was, I was curious. I was just like, what happens? So I let her fly out and. But yeah, if you shoot her, if you hit her body, I think just even once, and she'll stop.
This creature was not part of the mold. It wasn't a bat. I don't know what it had to do with vampires.
So I was looking through that concept art again for Resident Evil 8. It was initially designed for another boss. They were gonna have this kind of. Have you seen Fullmetal Alchemist?
Yeah.
Remember the priest-like guy who he always had made a machine gun for himself or whatever. He's in the full-on priest garb at the beginning, father whatever.
It's been a long time.
Okay, basically a character like that, and he was going to turn into this dragon with a body, a limp body flailing around on the top of it. And they just basically said, well, let's just make that Lady D, and they just transposed it to Lady D.
I've seen that design a few times with the human body on top of whatever this weird creature is, because the human turns
gives you
into
good target.
Definitely.
That's definitely why it's a common video game design.
The monster itself seemed like something out of what I would imagine you'd see in Code Vein, of all things. I haven't even played Code Vein, and I was like, what is this Code Vein boss doing in Resident Evil?
Why couldn't you just fight Lady D?
Yeah. Again, I want more Lady D.
Yeah.
Even if it's me killing her, I want more Lady D in my life.
Yeah, it was definitely odd. The boss was fine, forgettable.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's the weakest boss, but it's definitely not the best. One boss that is fantastic, though, in my opinion, is the Merman.
Yeah.
The fish boss. I think it's the same kind of, box design, but a couple different loops thrown in there. There's the acid rain he belches out that you have to get undercover. It's a much more complex little box.
There's a few boxes which make up a pretty loose sort of maze.
So you can use it to try to avoid him, but if he gets up on the roof, he might slide down right in front of you and get you. It's much more well designed since the boss has access to stuff that you don't, and it's just interesting. He's fun to just blast at. He kind of belches out from the mouth, his little human body or whatever, and you can blast at it. It's satisfying. It's fun. It's probably, I don't think any of the bosses are particularly stellar in this game, which is unfortunate because Resident Evil usually comes up with some awesome bosses. But in this game, I feel that none of them are particularly out. The rest of the enemy design are really solid. But in terms of bosses, this is probably the best of them for me.
So I don't remember 4 or 5 well enough to talk about individual bosses.
Some great bosses.
I vaguely remember El Gigantor.
Oh, of course.
And maybe that was a great boss. Maybe that's it. I probably said it wrong. But 2, 7, and 8, I don't think any of them had particularly...
2?
No, 7. Marguerite was probably the best
then-
out of all 3 of these games, I think.
I loved fighting... what is he? William in his, like, when you're lowered down to that pit with him, basically. And it's...
So, I didn't play Leon.
No,
we had a different boss, right?
You do have a different boss with Leon. You both fight that one, but so Claire fights him again at the very end with the chain gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fight before that where he's got the eyes. That's a really fun boss. The arena's great. He just lifts parts of the arena and tries to smash you.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think that's a
I had a lot
really
of fun
fun
with that.
boss. There's nowhere to like hide or run. Like it's just open, which isn't usually the case for Resi bosses.
I don't remember it being open because it had like 6 very small, but 6
But
little
he
like...
can just walk towards you. Like there's no like you can't
hallways.
like run away from. He's just gonna keep, and he's very aggressive. He'll just push toward you and toward you and toward you.
I guess also like maybe I ruined that fight for myself because at that point I had stockpiled so many acid rounds. He was literally nothing to me.
The acid rounds, yeah. And when you know how to beat him, it's much faster. But even when he's faster, I think he's a fun boss.
But that goes back to like the balancing of the economy of these games. That was my first playthrough. I didn't know how to beat him. I was just stockpiling what I knew to be the strongest. I was going to save it for a big boss. Felt like it was coming. And I withdrew those items from the box. And I don't know if these games are unbalanced or I just read them well enough. But I've not had a hard time
I don't think you're supposed to have a hard time, to be honest.
Okay, then maybe that's the case.
Yeah,
then that's fine.
I haven't ever had one, and I usually play on normal. I don't like playing.
Like the bosses are fun, a lot of them. Some of them are not. You know, Lady D's boss not very fun.
The second time you fight William, where you have to knock him off with in Resi 2, we have to knock him off a platform with the cargo crate. I think that's one of the worst bosses in video game history. I hate it so much.
I don't think it was that bad, but it was.
It's just so tedious. It's just tedious.
Yeah. Anyway, the fish boss.
Yeah, Leon, you get to kill Mr. X at the very end on an elevator. You just blow him up with a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
In good old classic Resi fashion.
I don't think any of the bosses are like super stellar.
No.
In any RE game. I've played. I don't of the modern ones I've played recently. I don't remember 5 or 4 or 5 well enough, but I don't think boss designs are like a huge deal.
They are for a lot of people.
Resident Evil.
A lot of people focus on the boss designs. They really like it. I agree with you. I think they're mostly just kind of hit or miss. I think the enemy designs where they really shine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I liked fighting, even though he was a joke, the giant. Anytime you fight the giant lichens, I liked fighting them. They were fun.
Do you fight them multiple times?
Yeah, you fight them once as Ethan, once as Chris.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Chris one's kind of lame because you got to use the stupid...
Sure. I thought you meant like they show up. Oh, but... the like feral beast lichen things.
Oh, those are awesome.
Those are Dude, really good.
When you get the Magnum and can just
which is a totally optional gun.
Yep, and the Magnum is disgusting.
Most of the guns optional?
I think you can pass pretty much any of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god! Back to the opening of this game. I forgot to talk about it. Getting the shotgun is. Again, this whole opening, this first huge encounter with the lichens, definitely going down as one of my favorite moments this year. I understand the house is incredible, but we've talked a lot about that. This opening just sells the game so well and is so masterfully crafted for what the whole of the package is trying to be, not just that one removed section. But... you're running away from these lichens. There's seemingly no hope, and it's not guiding you in any way. It's like a bunch of circles. And I've talked with one other person about that section that also made it out on the first time, that also seemingly at just the right time found the shotgun. You find a house and you just see sort of like in your periphery the prompt come up to pull a bookshelf in front of the door. So you do, you're tired, you breathe for a moment and you turn around, oh my god, there's a shotgun right here, and you just start shooting through that barricade to kill the lichens. It's so incredibly presented. The opening to this game, man. Just play the opening at least.
Yeah, it's such
wonderful.
Good stuff. So we talked about the fish section already, but just, before you fight the boss, very tense. He comes out of nowhere. You're moving very slowly over the water. You just don't want to die. You don't want. He'll take you out just in one fell swoop. So yes. You don't want to get caught by him. And it's so gross. He's kind of thrashing around. He's not even swimming. It's like just thrash, just swim. It's very well animated. I like it a lot.
Just like eyes, like oozing eyes all over the head of this fish. It's really gross.
Yeah, it's like the mutated Simpsons fish. It's a lot like that. And so that's really good. Then you move on to the action sequence you were talking about, where you just blast through like a bunch of lichens. You basically find their nest and are just mowing them down.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying.
A lot of fun.
Very satisfying. That seems to come out of nowhere, honestly. And then you move up to Heisenberg's machinarium. I don't know what you'd call it. But straight up, you drop down after saying a very dumb action line to Heisenberg. He kicks you down. Obviously, he's going to do that. Why'd you sit down, Ethan? Whatever. He kicks you down, and you are being chased by a man with legs and arms who the rest of his body is just a giant propeller. And
yeah, he's got like a plane engine just put on him like a vest.
Yeah, and his arms have been chopped off by the propeller. He's just chasing you, and it makes it very clear you can't kill him. Like I think the Resident Evil tends to communicate that pretty well when you can't kill something, because it shows Ethan shoot at it a couple of times, and he goes, "Oh crap!" and he gets up and he starts running, and then you're running. Yeah. It's very obvious. Don't fight this thing. Because I hate it when it's not communicated well and you try to fight it and you waste all that ammo.
Yeah, so I thought that about the opening as well, but you have to kill a number of lichens for the next scene to trigger.
Sure.
It's not just time passing. I initially thought it was time passing. I was like, I hate when you guys do this. I just saved all his ammo and you made me use it for no reason. But that wasn't the case there.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, I think it's the way to do it. But overall, I mean, the best part of Heisenberg's area is it's a fun looping, classic Resident Evil, looping back in and on itself kind of level design, multiple keys, and
multiple floors.
When you revisit other floors, the lights might go out. There might be other enemies that activate. Classic stuff, very fun. Little environmental pieces you can shoot to electrocute the baddies, and you have to sometimes get around them, shoot their backs, find their weak point. Just, classic Resident Evil stuff, very fun. I found it, what's the word I'm looking for, I guess? I liked the environmental design for something that can be so bland so often, just a classic, mech shop kind of area. It felt very alive. It felt very dynamic.
It's actually one of my favorite moments in the game.
Yeah.
I like that section a lot.
I was surprised by that I liked it so much.
If we were to remove the house and just talk about the other things that follow the typical structure of this game, what it's going for, it might be my favorite. If not, it's a close second to the water area.
Yes, but see, the water, they're good in different ways. I think I'd give the water area the edge.
It's also very short. The water area is very nothing almost.
Yeah, it's very, very small. This is definitely the longest section of the game, maybe even alongside the castle. Which, again, the pacing lines up exactly to Resident Evil 7. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. But, yeah, it's a good section, but it ends with probably the worst boss fight in the game, in my opinion.
I just kind of expected... at this point, I don't really expect anything from RE bosses. That's what I expect. There are glowing weak points. You just kill them until there's nothing else. Sure, but you're in a giant
tank.
Well, yeah, but...
I don't know. For me...
It's silly, and it's over the top. It's nonsense.
It is, but it's a level of over the top that hasn't been present in 7 or 8 yet.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, it broke the like that was a step too far, I guess, for me. And it kind of broke. Like, I can allow some of the crazy stuff that happens in 8. I can allow some of the crazy stuff that happens in 7.
Yeah, crazy stuff that happens in 8. Lady D cuts your hand off. You're like pulling a lever down, and mid-pull, she slices your hand off. Now you got to run through this maze to get away from her. But first, you have to circle back around to grab your hand. And when you're out of this place, in the previous game, his other hand was cut off, but stapled back together. You hold up your stump and put the hand back and just pour the Jesus juice on it. And it's like 3 seconds later, and he's like, okay.
And they try to, like, explain it later, but because you're not even... Like, it's not even until the very end of the game they bother explaining it.
They don't even hint at it a little bit.
Yeah, and so it's just like... You just like, okay. You just gotta move on, and you're like, yeah, okay. But even that I can handle. I don't know what it is about just dropping you in a tank. Ethan, a civilian. Sure, a civilian who has, like, been through hell, has, like, carried all these crazy guns around, just, like, massacring mass amounts of undead, lichen, creature, like, all these different crazy creatures. But, like, Chris Redfield, all of a sudden, now you're going to explain everything to him and then just give this man a tank?
Yeah.
Like,
it's silly, but...
Sure, I get
honestly, it doesn't catch me by surprise. It doesn't disappoint me because I don't expect anything.
I don't know. I can't quantify why it was a step too far for me, but it did yank me out.
So my expectation so far for Resident Evil bosses is... whatever, this is not very fun. That's my base expectation. So when it's better than that... usually it ends up being way better.
Fishman or whatever.
Fishman was a lot of fun. The Marguerite. That did it for me.
Yeah, Marguerite
was great. So super standout moments like that are really stand out. That boss, because my expectation was already whatever. That's what I got. Whatever.
It's a very mediocre fight, and after that you die.
You do die.
You die, and
then you get to play as Chris.
Yeah, and then so you die, and they kind of they move you over to play Chris, and you are just a Call of Duty character.
Oh yeah, you're killing lichens with like single headshots or maybe 2 shots, and like the giant feral lichens. You're killing in a
ammo
couple.
Drops everywhere.
Everywhere, you have thousands of rounds of ammo,
and you're just mowing these guys down.
Yeah.
And then you get a little targeter so they can drop missiles on stuff.
Yeah,
like I mean, it's actually just a Call of Duty game at that point.
But it's so much fun.
It's a blast, and it comes at just the right moment. You know.
Like, I think that's a better mix-up to pace. Sorry to go back to it. That was such... like, it felt so right.
Like I said, I still think that the house is disjointed, but I think it also works better because of where it is in the game.
I would like to go into a second playthrough with it in mind. I don't know when I'll play it again.
Sure. But like I said, I will defend it, but I'm not going to defend it super hard. I get it. Even I feel that it's disjointed. But you're right. Chris, and some people have pointed out that Chris is their least favorite part of the game because they feel that's the most disjointed. But for me, like, the game has been so actiony up to this point, and you just had a pretty long slog. So to be able to just, Fantasia dance through the lilies with Chris, who... the best part of the whole thing is that he's an established Resident Evil protagonist.
Yeah, it would feel like I would question people's judgment if they thought it didn't feel disjointed if he was just as weak as Ethan.
No.
It made so much... It was perfectly placed, made so much sense to me. I didn't question it for a moment.
Yep, and then... you end that section with a very dumb little giant lichen fight where you just have to keep aiming the dumb rocket thing on him. Like, let me just blast the guy. Let me just, give me the rocket.
Yeah, you killed him as Ethan before.
Like, give me the rocket launcher.
You got grenades. You got the Dragoon.
Yeah.
It's an awesome gun, which you unlock after your first playthrough. If I were to play again... I think I might just play with some of the good guns. Yeah, because you can beat the I forget his name, but the big lichen in the beginning. So he shows up in the opening as well. This giant lichen boss. He's in that initial opening I talked about where you're running in circles trying to run away from the lichens. He's there as well. Comes in about halfway through that sequence, and you're like, oh my god, what is this game doing to me right now? Again, it was just so good. The opening to RE8.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and then it drops you back in as Ethan because turns out you've been dead since the opening hours of Resident Evil 7. You were just a mold man, apparently, and that's why you can reattach your hands. Good old retconning fixes everything. It's stupid, doesn't make sense, but then I do like that the Duke is the one to cart you back, and you have no idea why. Like, why is this guy kind of guiding me through all of this? It's very weird, and I like it.
Yeah, and they don't answer it. Like, no. He asked the question, like, why are you doing this for me?
I don't even remember what he said.
Well, he says something like, I think he alludes to, like, he doesn't even know.
Yeah, it's really good. I like the Duke a lot, and then you just kind of load up, and you go in, and you fight a very mediocre final boss, and that's the end of the game.
Correct. Now, it does open up for the next game. It leaves some room for the next game.
Specifically says the father's story has ended.
Yes.
And then the superpowered daughter is apparently is alluded to be the next protagonist. I hope they don't do a script flip and make her the antagonist and you have to play some generic dweeb.
Yeah.
Like, I want to play
the guy in the car.
Yeah, like the guy in the car. No, I want to play her, and I want to just mess everyone up with my super mold powers.
See, then it would almost not be a Resident Evil game. Like 6, which would lead credence to my very loosely formed theory.
I'm totally down.
Of how this trilogy will play out.
I think that would be a great way to end it.
And then start over with something new again.
Yeah. Just the house. Or the dollhouse.
Oh my god. Zack. So we got Hades, right?
Oh, where are we going with this now?
We got this incredible...
Just feel like this Charlie from...
Maybe this has already been done with Layers of Fear, which I've not played yet. But thinking like the narrative structure of Hades, new narrative structure using the roguelite gameplay loop, and then we're both playing Returnal right now, which is giving us some like Metroid Prime sort of vibes, but presented with that roguelite game loop, which is one of my favorite game loops.
You know what's funny though?
Possibly a Resident Evil game.
It's a lot more rogue-like than light though. Returnal.
There's not much progression, like static progression.
Yeah, there's enough to be a roguelite for sure, but it's definitely a lot less carryover than many rogue games nowadays. Because
a lot of it's numbers-based stuff. This is, again, back to that Metroid Prime stuff. This is the item gating for a traditional sort of Metroid game. It's not you're now going to have a consistent 5% upgrade to attack, or whatever it is that you might get from a roguelike. It's not character progression, it's world progression and traversal and stuff like that.
It's cool. I like that take.
It's really interesting.
We'll talk about it next week.
We will.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We can have
next episode. And then we got that special coming up. So we'll talk about it in a bit, but maybe a horror game with that sort of structure. And then just a new trilogy, if you will. Just something brand new for Resident Evil. If that's what they did like every decade, like once a decade, we're just going to scrap it all. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I mean, it wouldn't be new for Capcom. How many times have they scrapped and rethought Mega Man?
I don't know. I don't Mega Man.
That's a sad...
Well, I mean, I know there's a ton.
We got classic Mega Man, you got X, you got Zero, you got Battle Network.
Yeah, but do they ever scrap something to go to that thing? They just keep adding more to Mega Man, right?
Well, no, you're right. They don't fully scrap it, but it's a different kind of series,
10 and 11 was like a huge gap, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, 8 and 9 was a huge gap.
That's what I mean. Like 9 and 10 were like decades gap, right? But 9 and 10 were very intentional callbacks, weren't they?
Yeah. So 8 came out, didn't get well received. So they just kind of kept on with X and 0, and then X, and then eventually 0. and then they decided to call back to like classic original, not even like Mega Man 2. Like there is no charge shot, there is no slide. Like Mega Man 9 is that.
They just made a new Mega Man game. Like as
many believe it is the best classic Mega Man game. Like Mega Man 9.
Sure, they've learned a lot.
Like and all the powers are the most unique and like since 2 the most useful.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, I don't Mega Man, but I bet the people that would deny such a claim are like people that are super nostalgic, because that only makes sense when you have decades of game design behind you at this point.
And I think
going back to that initial idea that it's only going to be better most of the time. I'm
not sure. I'm going to check right now, but I think the developers of Mega Man 9 are actually... so it's KG. Yeah, it's the guys who made Mega Man 0. Inti Creates. It's the guys who developed Mega Man 0. So it's guys, I'm telling you, Inti Creates is consistently fantastic. Azure Striker Gunvolt, Mega Man 0, Mega Man 9 and 10. Like, these guys are good.
Why did they also
make helped with
Azure Striker?
They also helped because they lost the license, I believe, or Capcom didn't want to make more Mega Man 0. They had more stuff they wanted to do with that style of gameplay. From my understanding, I'm just guessing because there's no like interviews that I can find on this.
But they did lose
like 4 is what Capcom wanted to be the end of 0, or maybe they want to be the end of 0, but they had more in that style of gameplay, that aggressive push forward.
Maybe
Mega
Capcom
Man
said
style,
no to dating sims,
which is a shame. But thankfully, we have Azure Striker Gunvolt, which you should play. Great game.
Maybe one day.
No, I just meant them.
Generally, you should play Azure Striker.
Yeah. Tyler introduced it to me, and I'm ever grateful.
Yeah, I tried to pick it up. I was trying something new, and it wasn't quite for me, but I figured
as someone
you'd like
who's
it.
a huge Mega Man 0 fan, it was very much for me.
Maybe one day you'll finally play Iconoclasts.
Yeah, I'll just keep putting it off probably for a little while, but I'll get to it.
One day.
Anyway, Resident
I'll play
Evil
it with you, maybe.
Great game.
Yes. I thought this game was great. I loved every second of my time with it.
Just fun, man.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's got some minor faults, but I think they're pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. Grand scheme of this like 8-hour game. That's another thing I really like about so far every Resident Evil game I played. So bite-sized.
Yeah, pretty much everyone but 6.
I haven't played 6. Is it bloated?
Yeah, only because there's multiple campaigns, which are all different.
Well, there's multiple campaigns in 2.
No. Like every campaign is fully different in 6. And
so they're meant to be played.
Correct.
All of them.
And each one plays differently. So like Leon plays like Resident Evil 4, and Chris plays like a standard shooter, stuff like that.
Huh. Interesting.
From my understanding, I haven't played it yet.
Thing to exist.
Yeah, dude, watch that Mac McMuscles video. It's really good.
I might. Well, we're going to wrap it up. It is pretty late. We got a late start tonight.
Yes, and I have an early morning tomorrow.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. Next episode is going to be Returnal. We are so excited to finally...
this is gonna be
been
good.
waiting on a PlayStation 5 for ages. Finally have one. So Returnal is next. Thank you for joining us. Please consider, if you've made it this far, a like on YouTube or a review on your platform of choice. And if you'd like to join the community, consider that $2 tier on Patreon to get into Discord. We've been playing a lot of Risk of Rain 2 lately. If you'd like to join us there, we'd love to have you. It's a ton of fun. I've got it on PlayStation as well, so I might be able to play with you there, but typically PC. And tell us about your favorite Resident Evil moments. And I'd love to debate more about the house, the placement of the house. Anyone else that sides with Zack, I'd really like to hear it. And yeah, just come join the discussion. Anything else, Zack?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. And don't forget to share what you love with who you love.